Good morning and happy Monday. Dan Kasper Show is on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online where you can stream it, sportstalk1051.com. You can also hit up the video stream link up there, the YouTube video live stream link. Or otherwise, you got the Sports Talk app in your Google and Alexa home devices. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend and, ready to begin another brand new work week here this morning. We'll make it through together, right? We'll get through this baby together. Maybe you're ready for a little bit of a break for the Brewers here too. Maybe the Brewers ready for a little bit of a break, dropping the series against the Giants. They hold a half a game lead heading into the All-Star break, thanks to a rain with the Cardinals game there. But Brewers 50-43, Cardinals 50-44. 93 games in, 69 more to go. Right? 69 more to go. Is my math correct? Let me just double check this. Yeah, 162 minus 93. Yeah, 69. Okay. I had to bring out the old calculator right there. But a little over halfway through, but I know we all kind of use this as like second half of the season and all that sort of stuff. But all right. What do you think, Brewers fans? What's your assessments of this team? How you feeling? Do you think this is a ball club that maybe just needs to get away from baseball here a little bit, kind of recharge themselves? Josh Hader on Friday night. I mean, it looked like the Brewers were going to get the second win of the series, and then 6 runs gives up in the ninth, including a walk-off salami. Yeah. Ooh, that was... Yeah, not the greatest. Not the greatest. And that's putting it lightly there. Got to keep it clean, though, right? So, oh, man. We got a couple of potential rumors. Again, it could just be, agent stuff out there or pure speculation. But I was reading over the weekend Bob Nightingale saying that Brewers are open to trading Colton Wong and Omar Narvaez, and maybe it's because, Colton Wong, they see as a veteran, going to be probably not on the team next year, move him. And then maybe you put, I don't know, Luis Urias over at second. And, you got toy around with maybe finding a third baseman, a little bit more of a power bat. Omar, maybe they look at their backups as guys that can be everyday starting catchers and maybe get a little bit in return for Omar. I don't know. It could just be based purely off speculation, but those were just a couple of the rumors I was reading about or reports, if you will, over the weekend. But you look at this ball club right now, I got to imagine maybe David Stern's using this All-Star break here to kind of do a little self-scouting with the team. We hear that term quite a bit when it comes to football, right? But maybe David Stern and the Brewers kind of looking at that themselves, looking at this roster, looking at this team and saying, where do we need improvements? How can we make improvements? Are we able to do this? But it's going to be interesting. But this definitely looks like a team that could use a little bit of a break here. And Corbin Burns, he's going to the All-Star game, but he's not. He pulled himself out of actually playing in the game. He's still going to attend it, but he's not going to play in the game itself. And he's hitching a ride, or he did hitch a ride yesterday with Devin Williams, who was added to the All-Star team. So good to see Devin Williams getting the credit that he deserves. But yeah, a little light on Brewers representation over there for the All-Star game. Speaking of the All-Star game, we've got the home run derby that's going to be starting up tonight. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. But in case you don't know, with the home run derby, we got Kyle Schwarber. That's going to be in it. We got Albert Pujols. He's in it. He's going to be the 8th seed. Schwarber's the 1 seed. Pete Alonso, the defending 2-time champion. Pete Alonso is the 2 seed. Acuna Jr. is the 7th seed. The 3 seed Corey Seager from the Rain going up against Julio Rodriguez from the Mariners in a 3-6 matchup. And then Juan Soto, number 4 seed, going up against Jose Ramirez from the Guardians. By the way, Juan Soto reportedly rejecting a 15-year cool 450-ish, depending, come around there, 445, just over $400 million contract. Must be nice to be able to reject something like that. Holy moly. But now there's talk about the Nationals looking to trade him. Can they trade him by the deadline? Who knows? But yeah, Juan Soto making some news over the weekend there too. But that's your home run derby lineup for tonight. But my question for y'all, who would be your all-time home run derby hitter? You can pick anybody. You're going to ride with one man. Now, it's got to be like in a home run derby format too, okay? So it'd be like, whoa, just pick pick Barry Bonds because he's got the most home runs or something like that. I mean, you could if you want to, but, think of it going into the competitive nature that is the home run derby. Who would be your number one? Who would be your go-to? Who you placing the bets on? Who you laying down some cash on? Kind of like a fantasy thing. Yeah. Who'd be your number one pick for your all-time home run derby participant? I keep going back, and it could just be strictly from my use of watching the home run derby, but I'm going with the backwards cap wear and the swag of Ken Griffey Jr. I keep going back to him, and that just could be based. I mean, obviously he had success in the home run derby, but when I think about the home run derby, I mean, I loved watching the home run derby as a kid. Watched that more than the All-Star game. But I loved watching the home run derby, and the person that keeps coming back into my mind is Griffey Jr. Won it 3 times, 94, 98, 99. But that's the guy I keep going back to. I think about Mark McGwire a little bit there too. He won it in, was it 92? But I keep going back to Griffey Jr. The home run derby started, if anybody wants a little bit of reference, how it is now, like 1985. They did do I would have loved to have seen this, but the inspiration was from a 1960 TV series called Home Run Derby. The televised event included baseball legends Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, and Willie Mays. The show ran for 26 episodes, with the winner receiving $2,000. So that was kind of the inspiration right there. But if you go back to 1985, Dave Parker was the first winner. Did it at the Metrodome. And then, of course, Pete Alonso's your back-to-back. If we don't, they didn't have one in 2020 with the COVID year. But who would be your guy that you would pick in there? I'm rolling with Junior. So we got plenty of baseball talk throughout the morning, talking some Brewers. We got the draft was last night, too, for Major League Baseball. Eric Brown Jr. was the first pick for the Brewers, 27th selection, shortstop from Coastal Carolina. So that was your 27th overall pick. Mizorowski, right-handed pitcher, at number 63. Another shortstop, Moore, at 72. And this Jacob Mizorowski from the second rounder, he's dude's 6'7". Ooh, yeah. But those are first couple of draft picks for the Brew Crew yesterday as the Major League Baseball draft. Trying to, I think, get a little bit more attention. It's just, and I was reading a little bit on Twitter too, and, it's the draft. When it comes to like Major League Baseball draft, a lot of people, we might know like the first few picks, or at least we've heard of maybe the first few guys. In a lot of instances, maybe we haven't. But it's just nothing will be able to ever compete with the NFL draft in terms of popularity. Whether you like the NFL draft or not, facts are facts. Nothing will ever compete with the popularity of the NFL draft. It's just not going to happen. The NFL does, give them credit where credit's due, do a fantastic job of marketing it, boosting it up. But I also think a lot of people watch college football. They know a lot of those players coming through. through the ranks coming through the draft. They pay attention to that. They've probably been watching them maybe for a couple of years at the college level and have kind of gotten to know them a little bit. College football is a big sport, so that helps feed into the NFL draft. A lot of us already know some of those college players. Nothing will ever touch the NFL draft, but it's also easier to follow, right? I mean, when we talk trades, once in a while we'll get those big trades, but usually it's, swapping a couple picks here. I mean, baseball, you've got competitive balance picks. You've got, all these picks. NBA, I mean, they're trading picks that are 10 years from now, or they're lottery protected picks, so it's a little confusing to kind of keep track of. NFL draft, it's fairly simple. It's probably the easiest one out there. We know a lot of the players, and there isn't all these, we got the comp picks, but that's probably one of the most complicating things is like, okay, comp picks, what's, the formula there? But probably the easier one to follow is the NFL draft. And I think that's a big part of why the interest in it is so much higher too. And, well, football. People love themselves some football. Speaking of football, next week, training camp opens. We'll be over there for the first couple of days for training camp too. But getting a little bit closer. The final week is now upon us for the NFL offseason, if you will. Training camp's opening up in the next few days. Justin Jefferson with the Minnesota Vikings, not shy from his level. Why shouldn't he be? I mean, the dude's pretty special, talented, one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. But he says that after this year, he will be the best receiver in the NFL. He told this to Complex's Cameron Hay. I'll say after this year, I'll be the best receiver in the NFL. I definitely have to give it to Davante Adams as of now. Him being so crazy and dynamic on the field. His route running is crazy. So I definitely have to give it to him right now. But I'm pretty sure after this year, it's going to be me. So you could pick one receiver. One receiver you want to add to your ball club. Anybody. Who are you picking in the NFL right now? Are you still picking, or are you going to pick Davante? Are you going to go with the youngster Justin Jefferson? Don't worry about contracts. I'm just talking straight up talent. Okay. So don't overthink it. Don't think too hard. Don't look at contracts. Don't look at age. We're just talking about 1 year, okay? But if you're just like looking like, all right, this year I just want to add one receiver for 1 year in the NFL. Are you going to agree with Justin Jefferson that, you know what? He is the best right now. I'm going to go with that. Or are you going to go with Davante? You're going to go with Chase from the Bengals? Who you rolling with? Who you riding with? Who you going to pick? All right. Kind of curious to see where this one goes. A lot of Packers fans, obviously, Jefferson. Would you say Jefferson's probably the best receiver in the NFC North now with no Davante? I think I would. I think I'd put Justin Jefferson as the best receiver in the NFC North now with no Davante Adams. So Packers fans, would you pick Justin Jefferson, or are you like, no, we still love Davante. We'd still love Davante. I'd put Davante at number one. Who are you going to go with? Let me know. All right. So we'll touch on a little bit of football here too. The Open, concluding. Anybody watching the Open yesterday? Exciting finish there at St. Andrews. Cameron Smith getting the victory. Rory McIlroy couldn't close out the deal, but Cameron Smith with a fantastic finish. And him and that Muller right there, he gets his major championship at St. Andrews. Rory McIlroy looked like that maybe he was gonna come away with it, but give Cameron Smith and that surge he had in the final round especially a lot of credit. So he comes away with the Open Championship, and that's honestly, I think now it's kind of the end of the season for golf. I know they got tournaments, but I mean, now it's July and there's really no big time, at least what they count as majors in that. And I don't know if we'll see Tiger play anymore at this point. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see, I guess. All right. So we'll chat a little bit about with JC and E, see if he's going to hop on coming up in the next hour here. Catch up on some local stuff too. Shout out to, we've got some Legion teams, Eau Claire 17U, Altoona 16U Legion teams heading to the state. So good stuff right there. But we'll touch on all that with Justice too. And I know this is kind of a quiet week in the sports world because, well, there's not a whole lot going on with the All-Star break and such. So I'm throwing a bunch of questions out at you. Is July, you think, the worst month in sports? Is it the worst month in sports? What do you think is, like, maybe worst is a little too dramatic, but what do you think is maybe the most boring month of sports, or there's just not a lot going on? Is it July? Is it after the Super Bowl in February? So maybe it's those couple weeks in February. At least February's a short month though, and Super Bowl's already halfway through February. So I mean, at least you got that covered. But I mean, what do you think is like the most boring, dull, worst month of sports? Is it July? Because it's only, you got baseball, you do have WNBA going on, you got some other stuff going on. Is it after the Super Bowl? You count those couple weeks in February. What's the worst time period in sports? All right. A lot of people think it's right now. Just kind of trying to get through it, trying to push on through, waiting for training camp, waiting for preseason, just waiting for football. Everybody makes fun of preseason football and that, but you watch, you love it because it's football. Don't kid yourselves. So what do you think is the most boring time of the month or time of the calendar year for the sports world? All right. Let me know. Okay. Hit me up with some text, 715-830-1912. Or you can hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. We got the YouTube live video stream coming up as well. So let's get this baby going though. Wisconsin Credit Union leadoff. We'll talk plenty of baseball here to kick it off. Brewers fans, what's your assessment of this team? Do they just, kind of quote Bull Durham? You just need a rain delay, wet the fields, get a rain delay, get a day off. Well, they get a few days off now. Is it just these guys need to recharge, get away from baseball here a little bit? Josh Hader with another yucky performance. Brewers holding on to a half-game lead heading into this All-Star break. What do you think about this ball club right now? When they get back at it, they'll have Colorado and Minnesota at home before they travel to Boston at the end of the month. And then also with the home run derby, let's make some picks. All right, who are you picking for the home run derby tonight? And then who is your all-time, like, number one fantasy draft? Who would be your number one pick for your all-time home run derby? All right, who would be your number one pick? So let's get things going. We'll take that first break, and then coming up in just a couple minutes here, we'll get things rolling on the Wisconsin Credit Union leadoff, chatting some baseball on this Monday morning.
The Dan Kasper Show will be right back after these words.
Got a take on today's topics but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line and let your fingers do the talking.
the Nation tab there, and you'll see the fantasy football sign up sheet there. We'll probably leave it up for, I don't know, a few more days here. I think we'll do like a live draft, maybe in person or online, depending on, everybody's got different schedules and that sort of stuff. Maybe we'll go somewhere and have a couple of beverages, do some drafting and all that fun stuff there too. So check it out, sportstalk1051.com. Click on that Nation tab and sign up for the NFL draft, or for our fantasy draft, excuse me, for our fantasy football league. So that should be a lot of fun. We might have to have a couple leagues going here, depending on how many people are signed up. I haven't checked it over the weekend, but still got a few more days to sign up. Sign up over there. Okay. All right. Bottom of the hour already here. Let's get things rolling here. Talking a little baseball, and well, maybe Brewers fans are ready for this All-Star break too, just to kind of recharge and take a break in a little bit, because Brewers dropping the 4-game series against the Giants before the All-Star break. But just kind of after that Friday night game, Hader gave up 6. It's like, oh no. Just had a pit in your stomach. It's like, oh, this isn't gonna be good, is it, for the rest of the series? This is not gonna be good. But they're still leading their division. Thank you to the weather there. They've got 50 wins on the season. They're in first place. They're first place in the NL Central heading in the All-Star break for the 7th time in franchise history. Through their first 50 games, the Brewers were 32-18. Since, the crew has gone 18-25. They have gone 3-7-4 in series and have not won a series in July, despite playing three series against sub 500 teams. This is according to MLB.com here. But do you think this is just a team that needs a little bit of a reset, a little bit of a recharge here? Yeah, get away. If you were Craig Counsell, what are you telling your ball club right now in these couple days off? What are you telling your ball club? What's the message to your ball club? You just say, you know what? Get away from the game for a couple days. Relax. Go play golf. Obviously Corbin and Devin will be participating in some all-star festivities. Corbin Burns not playing, but he's still going. Devin Williams, we'll see if he does get into the ball game, but he's going to be, there too. But what if you're Craig Counsell, what are you telling your ball club as you go into this all-star break, not playing your best baseball for the last month plus? And what's your message when the team reconvenes in a couple days and gets ready for the final push, for the final 69 games in the regular season? What's that message? What do you think's going? What is Craig Counsell going to say to that clubhouse? Counsell saying, we've just played so many close games, so Devin Williams' innings have been really valuable, talking about his all-star. Your bullpen is going to be in very high pressure situations every time they take the ball. Again, talking about Devin Williams and him getting the all-star nod. He's been Milwaukee's most consistent reliever when you think about it. I mean, we were talking Josh Hader was off to that fantastic start at the beginning of the season, and then you kind of look at his last couple of outings here, and Devin Williams maybe a little bit of a slow start, but since then has just been lights out. But Counsell saying, other than Williams, Counsell's had just a few reliable arms to turn to in relief, and you kind of wonder, okay, with the trade deadline coming up here, August 2nd, we're all focused on the offense. We all focused on, production, power in the lineup. Don't be surprised if the Brewers look to add to their bullpen. Add a couple more arms to that bullpen. Try to get some maybe fresher arms or just better talent. So don't be surprised if you see David Stearns adding a couple of arms in there. A lot of teams are going to be looking for bullpen help, though. So the price, supply and demand, price is going to go up a little bit. So Corbin Burns saying once everyone gets it going, it'll be awesome. We've seen what this offense can do when they're clicking. Defensively, we've got a ton of gold glovers, so all the pieces are there, and it's just a matter of putting it all together. We know we can. Craig Counsell saying about his offense, if you look up and down at our lineup, it's a lot of players having the same offensive year. I don't think any of them are dramatically underperforming, but I don't think anybody's having a big offensive season. I would say that's pretty accurate. That's an accurate assessment from Craig Counsell. I mean, when you kind of look at it, yeah, you got Willie Adames with 19 dingers. But you kind of look at some of the other numbers here. McCutcheon's batting 255. Yelich is batting 251. Adames is 220, even though he's got the 19 home runs. Tellez dropped down to a 227 batting average. Colton Wong's a 227. Peterson's a 252. Hunter Renfroe's a 243. Omar's gotten down to a 236. I would say that's an accurate assessment from Counsell. Just seems like a bunch of the same stuff. Maybe some guys hitting for a little bit more power than the other guys that are maybe hitting a little bit more for average, but there's not one player that is just kind of running away from this. Like just having a stellar offensive season so far. And maybe, if the Brewers, if David Stearns kind of takes a look at some of the potential available pieces out there in terms of like offensive players, maybe bringing in somebody like that will just kind of have a trickle down effect within the clubhouse and give them a little bit of a spark on the offensive side, that spark that they kind of need. Maybe that might be just an optimistic outlook or an optimistic viewpoint, but they need something. They need some arms. They need a bat or two in that lineup. Now, I know there was a couple reports about, Brewers looking at or open to trading a couple of their everyday starters. And I don't think it's necessarily, they're going to be sellers this year. But there was a report that from Bob Nightingale that the Brewers were open to or are open to trading Colton Wong, Omar Narvaez. And usually you'd see a team, or when you see a team that's in a postseason run, that they're probably not going to trade a couple of their everyday starters or maybe a couple of veterans. But in this instance, I think maybe the Brewers are looking at like, okay, we've got some other options. If these are players that we can use for pieces that can help us in our areas of weaknesses, we're open to that. Because Bob Nightingale said Brewers are still going to be looking to buy while also selling off some of the team's most noteworthy players. And another name added to this list, he kind of threw out Josh Hader. He said that he's reporting that the Brewers have notified other teams that they will listen to trade offers for Josh Hader. So what do you think about that? Or now you're probably thinking, all right, well, maybe his stock's down a little bit because of his last couple of outs here. But you've got a baseball insider from USA Today Sports saying the Brewers, they're informing teams that Josh Hader is available, Colton Wong is available, Omar Narvaez is available. Nightingale spoke apparently to several rival general managers who stated that the Brewers are set to move on from those two regular starters, Colton Wong, Omar Narvaez. So why would they trade a couple of starters there? Well, Colton Wong, he is a two-time Gold Glove winner at second base. and that. But I feel like that maybe if they move on, do they bring back Keston here and they put him at second base, try to bring in a bat there? Could they put Jace Peterson over there? Do they put Luis Urias over there, and then maybe they try to target a more power at bat at third base? You got Bryce Terang, who's in AAA. He's mostly a shortstop. He has a little bit of experience playing second base. And they bring him up. I think it's, if they do trade Colton Wong, I think they've got a vision or they have a plan for third base. You put Luis Urias over there at second. You try to bring in a power bat over at third base. I think that's the ideal scenario. Maybe the Omar Narvaez one is a little bit more like, really, Omar Narvaez, okay. But maybe they think Victor Pedro can catch every day. They're backup catchers. The only thing is that Pedro, if you remember, he's ineligible to play the postseason due to his failed PED test spring training. So, I mean, if you do trade Omar, you've got to be prepared for the fact that you got to have a plan when it comes to the postseason. But they've also got Mario Feliciano, who's with their taxi squad now. He's their top prospect at the catching spot. So maybe they've kind of envisioned, all right, let's get this guy up. Let's get a little bit of experience, get him ready to go, because he might be counted on if we do move on from Omar Narvaez. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of trade partners they could get for a guy like a Colton Wong. Because I got to imagine if a team is wanting Colton Wong or interested in acquiring Colton Wong, it's a team that's trying to get to the postseason, trying to punch their ticket. It's a contending team that has a weakness at second base, looking a little bit for leadership there. I think the Brewers have a little bit more depth where they could fill in by moving on from Colton Wong. But the big one, obviously, is Josh Hader. And with the emergence of Devin Williams and how he's performing, and maybe how Josh Hader has been performing the last couple of outings here, but I think this is the first time we've actually heard. I mean, we've heard about should the Brewers trade, or we've heard about teams calling the Brewers to inquire about the availability of Josh Hader, and from the most part, we've always heard no, not going to happen, not going to happen. This might be one of the few times that we've heard that's allegedly, reportedly, that Josh Hader might actually be available. Maybe the Brewers are just kind of looking like, okay, these are good players. They're solid players. But obviously something is just not working. We've got to change it up here. We got to do a little bit of retooling. We got to mix it up here just for a second. And we're more open to do this now because it ain't working right now. We're getting by. We're getting through, but is it good enough to win a World Series? I'm probably thinking not right now. So your thoughts on those potential trade rumors? Hit me up with some texts, 715-830-1912. Also looking for your all-time, like if you had a fantasy home run derby player, who are you picking? You can pick one to insert into a home run derby. Who are you rolling with? And give me your predictions for tonight's home run derby, too. Let's have a little fun with that, all right? Okay, quick break. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll close out the first hour. We got a bunch of other stuff planned throughout the morning, too. Who's the one wide receiver? Who's the best wide receiver in football? Who's the one wide receiver you would add to your team? We're going to hit that up. Coming up a little bit later on, too.
Easy moving and storage, making life easier. Moving cross town or just moving on out, efficient and affordable, that's what we're all about. In the Chippewa Valley since '89, any move of any size, we don't waste time. Locally owned, we always pick up the phone. Easy moving and storage, making life easier.
It's the dog days of summer right now, and maybe you've been spending some extra time indoors to beat the heat. While you've been doing that, though, has your mind began to wonder? Are you coming up with different ideas for looks in your home? But you don't want to spend a lot. And what about the items you already have? What do you do with them? The solution? The Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore. Stop on in at the Restore to find what unique items you can add to your home or office. From furnishings, appliances, and home building supplies, you'll never know what kind of treasures you will find at the Restore. And if you're looking to move on from any of your own furnishings, appliances, and home building supplies, the perfect place is donating it to the Chippewa Valley Habitat. This week's River Country Co-op's Gas Pass giveaways got a couple of new locations this week, Prairie Farm and the Eau Claire Ferry Street location. So what you do, stop on over there, walk on in, grab some snacks, that good stuff, and then you can sign up to win some free gas. No purchase necessary, but, I mean, you're there. You might as well grab some snacks and some drinks and all that good stuff, right? So while you check out the Prairie Farm and the Eau Claire Ferry Street River Country Co-op locations, walk on in there and sign up to win potentially some gas, $50 in gas from our good friends over there at River Country Co-op. So every week through the beginning of September, we're going to have a couple of new locations every week. So make sure you're tuning in and you're listening. And then this week, it's the Prairie Farm and the Eau Claire Ferry Street locations. A couple of texts to catch up on. I'm not sure what the one texter says. Guess it was in 2011. Time flies. Not sure what that's in reference to. I think the Brewers should trade Hader. They won't be able to afford him when he becomes a free agent with trading Hader. You should be able to get a third baseman. I know Bob Nightingale in his column, I think it was his column. Yeah, he mentioned like the Dodgers as a perfect trade partner for Josh Hader. And you're like, oh, great. Yeah, make the rich richer at that point. And I was kind of looking at their depth chart. I mean, they got Max Muncy. They got Justin Turner, as third base options. Max Muncy is just batting 160, though, this year. 9 home runs. Remember Justin Turner? There was a rumor, could he sign with the Brewers? He's batting 252 with 8 home runs. How about this, though? I'll throw the guy he's only got one career start at third base, but he's got plenty of starts at second and even a little outfield and shortstop. How about Kenosha native Gavin Lux? Huh? I know he's their starting second baseman, but I'd be good with that. 292, 4 home runs. Josh Hader for Gavin, 24 years old, be 25 in November. I think I'd be okay with that move. Now, I know you're bringing in another second baseman. Does that mean, Luis Urias stays at third, or maybe Gavin play a little third over there too? Surveyor, honestly, you'd be a bad GM if you didn't listen to trade offers for anyone. If someone is willing to vastly overpay for a player, you would be dumb not to take it. Best part is you can always say, nope, not enough. Quick tweet here. Griffey Jr. just rewatched some highlights of his home run derby performances. Also, Brewers need a 270-280 hitter, or we will be talking about an early postseason exit again. Let's take a quick phone call as we've got a few minutes to the top of the hour. Good morning, C-Bob. What's on your mind this morning?
Good morning, El Capitano. Happy Monday to my man. And I want to throw this out there because you weren't on air yesterday, but a day late. Happy birthday, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I did see the tweets video from you too, so that made the night. Thank you, buddy.
You betcha. I was hoping you even had on the old my version of wife beater. I thought that would be
I did notice that. Well, I was going to comment on that, but I was like, what was that? Was that trying to show off the guns or something like that? I mean, come on.
No, it was brutally hot yesterday, so I had a tank top on. But in that video, it looked like a wife beater, so I had to comment on it.
Hey, what's on your mind this morning, bud?
Oh, I could go one of two directions. You were talking NFL wide receivers, and dude, we are like 10 days away from life kicking off again, with the NFL training camp, and I'm going to be right there by your side next week for the first 2 days. I can't wait. I am stoked. But then you got talking Josh Hader and trading him, and one question: I'm not opposed to trading him, but not for a damn third baseman. They better get a haul. I mean, could you imagine the Yankees if they would have gave up Mariano Rivera for a third baseman?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking one of the premier closer, probably the premier closer in all of Major League Baseball right now. And if you give him to the Dodgers, I will personally find Mark Antanasio and slap him up in the face for wondering what the hell he's doing. Let Stearns get rid of him to the Dodgers. I mean, because we're going to have to play the Dodgers if we want to get ultimately where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So what do you?
Know.
I'm just kind of looking at Dodgers depth here for a little bit. Their closer right now that they've got listed is Craig Kimbrell. What if it was a Craig Kimbrell and Gavin Lux for a Josh Hader?
I would do that.
Yeah,
that would be good. I actually think Kimbrell. A couple of years ago, he was the premier closer in the league. I think if you brought in Kimbrell, you could move him to the setup guy for Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you made her, you got to put Williams as your closer.
Absolutely. I think that's the only reason they're entertaining this whole Hader thought is because Devin Williams has been lights out. And let's be honest, the Brewers can't afford to give up their farm system, to make a one run at this. They need their farm system, so they're going to have to get rid of something on their roster. And I was going to ask you if they had to trade one of these pitchers, if it had to be Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, Hader, or Williams. Out of those 5, who are you going to give up?
If it was just those 5, it'd be Hader.
Can you believe we're saying that?
I know, but yeah, I just Corbin Burns is a no for me. That's an untouchable. Brandon Woodruff, no. Freddie Peralta, I mean his contract is so team friendly for the next few years. So I mean for a small market team like that, you got to hold on to him. And I mean the way Devin Williams is pitching right now, I mean if you're giving me those 5, I'd have to go Josh Hader, I think.
I think you're right. And you know what I think we could do if the Dodgers were in play? I mean, they got a guy who's not happy to be there. Make a swing for Freddie Freeman and Lux. Brian, would that be awesome or what?
That's a pipe dream, but yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they I think they're going to have to make a move in order to. It's the question: what do you do if you're Craig Counsell? You just tell the team, look, we haven't put it together. We've been sloppy. We're still leading in the division. Get out of here. Go have fun. Come back, and it's time for the season to start. Because I mean, we've talked about it all season long on this show. Just like Counsell said, all these hitters are the same. We don't have anyone standing out. They're all 250 or worse. I do think they're going to have to give up one of their key pieces either in the bullpen or in the starting rotation in order to bolster that offense. But time will tell. I mean, they got us here to football season again, so that's always goal number 1.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, hopefully they can run and keep it exciting and through the fall. And if they can't, well, football's here.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, speaking of football, before I let you go, who's the one wide receiver that you would pick to add onto your team? Don't worry about age. Just for 1 year. Don't worry about contract. You want Jefferson, Devontae, or anybody else?
Well, I said it last year, and it wasn't the homer pick when I said Davante Adams, and I still think it would be Davante Adams. And I'll tell you what, Justin Jefferson, the kid across the river, I hate to say it, but I think he's right, man. That kid is phenomenal, and Minnesota's done it again. I think they got a thorn in our side for the next decade. But, yeah, Justin Jefferson, there's a number of young receivers that are really good. I mean, Jalen Waddle was a top 10 receiver for the freaking Dolphins. I mean, there's a lot of young talent in the league, but right now I think aside from Devontae, if I had to pick somebody else, it would be JJ across the river, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right when you talk about some of the younger talent. I mean, Chase with the Bengals, you throw him in there. You throw, as you said, Waddle. You got obviously Justin Jefferson over there too. I mean, there's some pretty good young talent in this league at that wide receiver position. And that's what, this was a weird offseason where we saw a lot of dudes, get traded and earn big time cash. So, I mean, these youngsters like Jefferson and they got to be eyeing up some of these deals and just salivating at the thought of making over $20 million per year. Because, I think it's fair to say Justin Jefferson at some point is going to be the highest paid wide receiver. Might only last for a week. But I would think at some point he's going to be the highest paid receiver in this league.
Yeah, he's a special talent. I agree with you on that. And he's got Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball. The kid's amazing, and I hate seeing it. Another one that up late in the season last year really ticked it up for a terrible team is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
And Quinemius' little brother, and that kid can play. Now he was a heck of a player at USC, and he is a phenomenal talent as well. So I think the NFC North is sitting pretty good with their wide receiver core on 3 squads outside of Green Bay.
Yeah, and hopefully one of those youngsters like Christian Watson can do that step up. Heck, Deebo Samuel's only 26. We didn't talk about him. I mean, CeeDee Lamb and Dallas. Oh, man, there's a lot of good young talent. Holy moly.
They are. And let's just hope Green Bay isn't one of the idiotic teams that overpays for them.
Right. All right, dude.
Seriously, with all this young talent, if you can pluck one from the draft for 3 or 4 years and score with them, you're all the better.
Yep, I agree. All right, dude. Hey, we got to let you go. So appreciate the phone call this morning, sir.
Thanks for having me. Have a great week.
You too, buddy. There you go. There's C-Bomb. All right. Coming up in next hour here, we'll take some more of your texts. I don't have the texting line up right now, but who is that one wide receiver that you would put on your team today? Is it Justin Jefferson? Is it Devontae Adams? Would you go Cooper Kupp? I mean, the dude almost had 2,000 receiving yards last year, for crying out loud. Would you go Jamar Chase, Debo, Tyreek Hill? Who'd you throw out there? Justin Jefferson saying by this season's end, he will be the number one wide receiver. He's giving it to Devontae right now. So let me ask you that. Who would you roll with? Who's the number one? Who would you add to your team right now? Is it still Devontae? Would you go Jefferson? Anybody else? I want to hear from you. Also, Fantasy Home Run Derby. Who's your number one pick? Number one pick in Fantasy Home Run Derby. Griffey? Bonds? Anybody else? I want to hear from you. Text, tweet, Facebook, all that good stuff. 1 hour in. We got 2 more to go. Coming up in just a few minutes.
WAYY Eau Claire. W286CK. Oh.
Hank Aaron. I knew you were going to go with Hank Aaron.
I just think about just a guy who was so consistent in
Mhm.
that swing. And they did those old school home run derbies, the
Yep.
ones that they did at like Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. So
The
I don't know.
1960 TV series that we were talking about a little bit earlier, the home
Right,
run
so-
derby. Yeah.
Before he was basically known as a home run hitter at that point too. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think I got to go with Hammer and Hank.
You know, I was looking at some of the winners since 1985. I think two, and this isn't discredit to them, but like two guys that I never would have thought would have won a home run derby. Sandberg from the Cubs, which he did in 1990. That was also
yeah.
at Wrigley Field. So, and then the year after was Junior, Cal Ripken Jr.
Wow. Yeah, those are two guys you definitely don't think of as home run hitters per se. They obviously have done plenty in their careers, but yeah, I would not have thought of that.
No. So I'm just kind of looking at some of the other lists here. We'll see if Pete Alonso tonight can make it 3 in a row with the home run derby tonight. And then, of course, Albert Pujols, kind of the honorary member of that thing. Watch, you'll probably win it too. You'll probably go out and win it.
It'd be great. That swing of his is still, I mean, it's still nice and easy. So if he can just get into a groove, I think he has a chance.
I kind of posted this out on Twitter a week ago, but never really talked about it. If you had to pick one player in their prime offensively, would you pick Pujols or Miguel Cabrera?
Oh boy. I'd probably still go Pujols only because that first 10-year run of his career, I mean, he was doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cabrera was too. I mean, that they both in their time were right above 300 hitters. That to me is like the biggest thing as you look at. They were both getting power.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Pujols was just unbelievable. I think in those first 10 years. Now I'd probably go back there. Some probably has better numbers. Something I mean, but
right.
for the first 10, 12 years of his career, Pujols is the guy that you didn't want to mess with. So I have Pujols because also with being a Brewers fan, you had to face him a lot when he's on those Cardinals squads that completely controlled and owned the Milwaukee Brewers back then, where like Giovanni Gallardo was like 1-10 all time against the Cardinals or something like that. So yeah, that would be I'd have to go Pujols.
Yeah, I was just I've got his numbers up since 2001 and all the way to 2012. The lowest amount of home runs he hit in a season was 32 in 2007. Otherwise, it was all 30s and 40s. And only one season he didn't break 100 RBIs. And that was 2011 with 99. Just an unbelievable stretch run right there.
You were talking about as I pulled up the all-time winners. Tino Martinez won a home run derby.
Really? Tino did?
Yeah. Tino Martinez at Jacobs Field in 97. That was right before the two Griffeys back-to-back wins. Luis Gonzalez.
The Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Garrett Anderson.
How about Todd Frazier winning one too?
Right, exactly. Justin Morneau. I mean, Morneau could hit, but yeah, it's like there's names in there. You're like, oh, this guy won a home run derby. So yeah, it's not crazy for somebody. It's all about the swing. You can hit it. It's just getting him over the fence. It's not getting him so far over the fence. But I think the McGuire one is the one that's remembered. The McGuire Sosa duel, where they were like, was that at Miller Park? Or excuse, back then Miller Park.
I know Giambi. I think Giambi won the Miller Park one. Yeah, Jason Giambi won 2002 at Miller Park.
The one that I think of like Sosa, didn't he hit one over the slide or something like that? Somebody
could have. Yeah, Sosa won the 2001 at Turner Field.
Okay. I mean, you think about the guys who were hitting in those home run derbies too.
Yeah.
Especially that era. I mean, there was some guys who were just, obviously hit some prolific home run. So yeah, there's been some big names in it. I mean, you throw out Babe Ruth. I mean, it'd be hard not to press to see what he would have done in a event like this too. So
I think what surprises me is that McGuire only won it once in '92 with Oakland.
Right, when he was little.
Yeah,
McGuire. There's that picture of him standing next to Bill Murray in like '92, and he's like, "We should have been on to something when Bill Murray had a bigger physique than Mark McGuire back in 1992."
I keep going back to Griffey, and I think a lot of that is just from my childhood watching those home run derbies and just seeing the backwards hat and the swing. I mean, it's iconic to me.
Yeah, he is the ultimate and one of my what could have been had he stayed healthy.
Mhm.
And how many home runs would he have hit had he not basically missed 3 seasons, up to almost the equivalent of 3 seasons when he was in Cincinnati. But yeah, I mean, he was that swing. I had Ken Griffey Jr. baseball for Super Nintendo. Beginning of it was that swing. It just he was. You get saying like one of time, but I think Ken Griffey Jr. Obviously being a junior, there was another Ken Griffey, but
Right.
there was never Ken Jr. that he was the coolest player in all of the 90s.
Oh, easily. And I think what a lot of people kind of forget too is like what cooler, in my opinion, dude never wanted to play for the Yankees. Was not going to play for the Yankees.
Right.
If you know that story there, he's like, nope, not playing for the Yankees. Not going to do it.
Did it have to do with his dad though, too, playing for the Yankees? Maybe Steinbrenner probably left a little.
It was something, I think, when he was like, he was a kid. So, I mean, junior kid and all that. But he said, he came to visit his dad. It was just me and him. Got to go to the Yankee game early and sit in the dugout. The security guard comes over and says, "Hey, George, anybody go?" My dad was like, "What? He's my son." And well, that's George Steinbrenner doesn't want kicked him out. So that's why Junior would never play for the Yankees, because Steinbrenner kicked him out of the dugout as a kid.
Little did he know.
Little did he know, right? Yep, exactly.
Little did he know that it would come back to haunt him later.
Yep, exactly.
You know who's also surprised never won it? I'm surprised Cecil Fielder never won a.
Yeah.
Back in the day, he was just crushing the ball back in his. I remember him just being. Every sports center was Cecil Fielder crushing the ball over the roof of Tiger Stadium and stuff like that. But
yeah,
Prince did.
Yep, Prince won it a couple times. Barry Bonds only won it once in '96.
Right.
Small.
That's pre-hitting Barry Bonds too.
Right. And I'm just kind of looking at Vlad Guerrero Jr. I mean, that just kind of makes sense with his swing, winning it one time.
Yeah.
Too. But yeah, and then Cespedes won it a couple times. So, oh yeah.
Wally Joyner. Would you have thought Wally Joyner would be on that list too?
No. No, I would not.
Yeah, there's just some. Yeah, sometimes you look Eric Davis and Ruben Sierra. Those guys kind of were similar, just littler guys that could just crush the ball.
Right. Man, I remember. And then Miguel Tejada. Oh, that was Baltimore days. That wasn't even Oakland days too. Interesting.
The old school, yeah. There's a lot of it's fun to look back because there's a lot of just different names that pop up from those eras of just that guy was like Ryan Howard. There was a point where Ryan Howard was the biggest guy in baseball. Him and Pujols, arguably were going back and forth for the big, and Vlad Guerrero was right there too at that same time. So yeah, there's just all these names you throw out there. You definitely it's a track into our baseball history in our lifetime.
I agree. Hey, so I gotta talk golf with you after the Open. Yes, I mean this weekend, but an epic final round at the Open. The mullet wearing Cameron Smith with a fantastic final round to get that W and stopping Rory from winning it. Rory was my pick at the beginning too, so I had a little bit of extra motivation to go for Rory. So I had some bragging rights.
Mine too.
Was he? Oh, perfect. So, but I mean, Cameron Smith's been playing some amazing golf this year. I mean, he's just been, I know we're always looking for the next Tiger. Everybody says, well, who's the next Tiger? Nobody's ever going to be the next Tiger. But Cameron Smith, could he be like the next personality or golfer that fans kind of focus in on? I mean, dude's, fun loving, goofy kind of guy. Says after the Open, I'm definitely going to find out how many beers are going to go into this thing. I mean, it's just, we're always looking for that next golfer. And I mean, we're always it was Jordan Spieth, it was Rory. Now Rory's playing some really good golf and he's bringing himself back in the conversation. But I mean, should we be kind of focusing more on Cameron Smith in your opinion too, about how good of a golfer he is?
Oh, he had a heck of a year. I mean, he was there in contention in every major. I think he was for what he was able to do yesterday. I think we'll be seeing him now for forever. Once you're a major champion, you're known, and you're letting, even if you fade off, you're still going to come back and play the Open Championship, being a past champion. So, yeah, I mean, he's young. He just has nerves of steel at 18th hole for him to come back and get that birdie after really setting himself up not in a great position with his tee shot. Granted, he was still 2 shots and he was basically on the green, but that could have went all kinds of wrong. If you had the nerves that, if he doesn't get birdie, he's in a playoff, and who knows what ends up happening. But it just tells you how hard it is to win majors now. I think, not to take anything away from when Tiger was doing it, because he was just on a different level than everybody, but there are so many guys you go into every weekend that could win that major, that are so good that you have a legitimate chance of winning. That somebody like Cameron Smith, the fact that he finally got his is good. And we're going to be talking about like Will Zalatoris when he's going to get his. Cameron Young.
Yeah.
I mean, how clutch was that 18th hole to get that eagle? Even it didn't end up working out where he was able to get the playoff, but to step up, have the moxie to do what he did, to get it on there and get the eagle. That was impressive. And yeah, I mean, I was watching that. I just think of like Spieth and McIlroy, how great of golfers they are, and how long that drought has been for their major championships. It's hard. It's so hard. And who knows when the next time they can win it, but it's been a great year for Rory McIlroy, kind of a renaissance year for him, and we'll see if he can carry that momentum into the next year as well.
Yeah, and I feel like Rory, I mean, this is to me, when I think of the 2022, and it's kind of weird because it is July and we're talking like the season's over with, but I mean, I kind of feel like the golf season's over with, Justice, because, majors are done and all that sort of stuff. So to me, it feels like that season's kind of over with. I don't know if you're kind of thinking the same thing. I mean, they got tournaments and still, but when I look at 2022, it's going to be the Live Tour, but then also I'm going to think of Rory. I mean, Rory kind of stepping up, being vocal about against the Live Tour, and he's played great golf to kind of back it up there too. So, I mean, yeah, I would agree with you. It's kind of been a renaissance for Rory this year, it seems like.
It really has. And I think it will be remembered for him kind of leading the charge of the PGA guys against the Live Tour, but him on the course backing it up and just having one of his best years and still not getting a major championship. But there's nothing wrong with that, to have a year like he had. And I think I think I miss having the PGA Championship. I hate to say it, I think there was a reason why they moved it out of August, because they didn't want to compete with the NFL. Because the NFL, obviously, everything's going to really start hype it up here in a week and a half. But it's kind of, I know it gives the Tour Championship and all that kind of more of a spotlight. But yeah, it's weird having not a major in August anymore. So you can really say it is kind of the end of the year. But we'll see. Maybe he ends up winning the Tour Championship too.
Right.
That's going to be a good battle, because obviously there's plenty of really good players that have done a lot. I mean, Scotty Scheffler, we were talking about him lighting the world on fire earlier, and he still finished in the top 10. So there's going to be a lot of guys that we're going to see, not top 10, but he was in contention up until the final day. There's a lot of guys. So it should bring up some more drama, I guess. Yeah, when you get to the FedEx Cup.
Would you say that the golf world right now has maybe the best, how do I want to phrase this, the best or the most talent it's had in quite some time, like just overall, like, I mean, and this isn't a knock on Tiger because Tiger's my guy, but I mean, the question was in his prime, Tiger or the field, right? Who you picking, right? Tiger or the field? And it wasn't crazy to pick Tiger over the field just because of how dominant he was. Would you say the depth, if we're just kind of looking at major championships and not kind of comparing the tours now, but as far as major championships, would you say the talent pool is bigger and more spread out than it has been in years past?
Oh, I believe it is. I believe that, I think it was more top heavy when Tiger was in his prime, where you had like 5 or 6 guys that were really the big guys. But I think with the tour now, going just down the top 10, you got Rory in the top 10, Dustin Johnson, Victor Hovland, Bryson DeChambeau, Spieth, Cantlay. I mean, right there, any one of those guys. Adam Scott, finishing 15th. Xander Schauffele, who hasn't won a major yet. I think there's more of those guys that are right there in that tier of where they could do it. And you go back, and I just pulled up like the 2002 Masters, for example. The one that, Tiger, Retief Goosen, Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els, Patrick Harrington, Vijay Singh, Sergio Garcia, and Adam Scott. So they were, there's some big names there, but I think after you get off the top 25, 30 guys I don't think we're quite at that tier as they are now, where there's 30, 40 guys, or you throw a name out there and, oh yeah, that guy could probably win a major. Oh yeah, that guy, Shane Lowry finishing 21st, that guy can win a major. So Tony Finau. So yeah, I think it's a little more now. You go back, and the depth is just, yeah, it's as deep, if not deeper, than it's ever been.
It'd be curious, like, because I know obviously when Tiger was in his prime, there wasn't the DraftKings or the FanDuels, of the worlds and placing the bets like it is now, where people can do it on their cell phones, right? It's bigger now. I would be curious to know, like, how many bets, like, during Tiger's prime, how many people would just put money on Tiger or the field, and then compare it now to where I think it's a little bit more open, betting where do the lines go and all that sort of stuff, where it's a little bit more of an unknown. I would have loved to have seen that kind of comparison between the two, like how the money would have flowed between bets.
Right. I think it's so tough. I mean, Rory was the betting favorite, so you had a chance. I'm sure there's a lot of people that put money on Rory during, but still, I mean, you have to look at the field and be like, I got to go field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with, if Tiger was playing now, it'd still be hard pressed not to just completely bet the field against that. But again, there was a lot of great players. I'm not discounting how many great players there were 20 years ago, but I think the depth from top to bottom is different now than it was then.
No, I agree. And I don't know. I was saying at the end of last week, and now that it's over with, it almost felt like a goodbye sort of thing leading up to it. And then, after that with Tiger, and I don't know if he'll play St. Andrews on a competitive tournament anymore, but it almost just kind of felt like it was a goodbye for Tiger, and then he had the emotion on Friday walking up the 18th and it just kind of leading up the whole week there. It just almost felt like that was the last time we were going to see Tiger. I don't think it would be the last time, but I don't know. It just had a weird feeling kind of watching it a little bit.
It really did. I think the emotion, to me, it was more of just the sense of almost accomplishment for being out there and being able to play this year. Like, just how much it took out of him to just be able to walk those 3 tournaments that he played this year. And I don't think, deep down, none of us really know, other than him, how much pain he's in and how much it takes for him to go out there and just swing a club and try to play competitively. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what going forward it'll be. I mean, I expect him to see him at the Masters next year. I think the thing we can't discount about Tiger Woods is the competitive juices that flow within that man. First of all, just being to that point where he had a goal of getting back on the course this year, which many of us thought was not going to be possible after the car accident. And then for him to, now maybe that next step is him ramping it up to play a little more competitively. We don't know. I mean, he seems like a man's kind of content where he's at with his place in history, but I think he has such a competitive flow to him that we're going to see him. I don't think we've seen the last of him competing a chance to win at a major. I think it's something in my heart says this isn't the end of Tiger Woods. Well, when is the end? That's the thing. It's hard to always, especially with golf. I mean, you can play for a long, long time. Granted, but no one's body has probably been through what his body has at that point. Maybe Ben Hogan.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Hogan obviously had the car accident as well and came back. But for Tiger, before all of this, the surgeries he had, to throw that in there, yeah, I don't know how much, how comfortably he'll be able to do what he wants to do out there on the golf course.
And I have to wonder at some point, that competitiveness, does it get to be, kind of like, okay, at some point though, you have to realize the end is, it's coming, but does that competitiveness kind of keep pushing it to where, he's trying to go out there and he's trying to win, but it's just not there. That's the other part with his competitiveness. Does he know when enough's enough? I think is going to be the big question for Tiger. And is he going to be willing to accept that?
And is he going to be willing to accept that he might just go out there and basically be playing ceremonial rounds, which we saw from a lot of guys. I mean, obviously Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus in their final years weren't playing real competitive golf anymore. They would they'd have flashes, especially Jack every once in a while. I think it was like the 98 Masters where he finished in the top 5 and he was like 50 some years old. I mean, Jack was amazing. That's why he's, considered the greatest with Tiger. But it's, how much of his pride too is gonna be like, I really want to be a guy who's up there competing for the wins, not a guy who's just sitting there and waving. So that's a tough thing to do. As we all know, when we get older, your body gives you those limitations, and he's got more added upon that, obviously, than a lot of us do at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, we got to take a quick break here. And then coming up, we'll get back to some more baseball talk. Brewers heading into the All-Star break, holding on to a half-game lead in the division, dropping the series against the Giants. So now, if you're Craig Counsell, what are you telling your ball club to do during these few days off? Any special motivational thing that you want to pass along? Hit us up with the text 715-830-1912. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Just a little over a month away from the second annual Kasper Classic at Princeton Valley Golf Course. Two-person scramble for just $90. You get 9 holes of golf, cart, drink tickets, free meal afterwards. Just give Princeton Valley Golf Course a call. We got two tee time slots as well, 10:30 a.m. and 1 o'clock p.m. Just give Princeton Valley Golf Course a call to sign up your team and to pick your tee time slot, 715-834-3334. So that's coming up. It'll be here really quick, just a little over a month away, August 26th. It's a Friday. Put it on your schedule. And if you're interested, maybe doing some sponsoring or donations for some of the raffles, because it's all going to Backyard Dreams, hit me up. All right, we'll talk. Okay, we'll talk. But you can hit me up, and we'll figure that out. So looking forward to the second annual Kasper Classic. Got a text here for the home run derby too. Going with this person said everyone will laugh with me or laugh at me out of the room with this one, but my all-time home run derby draft pick will be Robinson Cano when he won the derby 5 to 6 years ago. I think this is what might have been a text that came in. Guess it was in 2011. Wow, time flies. So Robinson Cano picked there too. So a lot of good ones. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, and there's really no right or wrong answer in this one. It's just kind of cool to see everybody's picks and their thoughts on there.
Do you remember back when they didn't want people doing the home run derby because they worried it would screw up their swing for the rest of the year? Like Ryan Howard, I think that one year.
Well, we talked about it with Jesus Aguilar too.
Yeah, true. Yep.
A few years ago, and then his second half wasn't compared or wasn't like his first half. I mean, there was talk about MVP for Jesus Aguilar.
Right. I feel like everybody swings like that now.
Mm-hmm.
Like back then, I think there was a difference. Maybe you had a game swing and a home run swing, but I feel like everybody's using the home run swing now anyway, so it probably doesn't change as much.
No. I mean, you look at, the Schwarber, for example, right? I mean, this dude I think he's the 1 seed in the home run derby. He's got 29 home runs this year. His batting average is 208, though. So, yeah, I know that's the trend, but if we threw that out for a question, I kind of asked you that for we'd rather have a guy like a Schwarber who hits 29 home runs, but he's 208 in batting average. And I know the exit velocities and all that sort of stuff, but we're just looking at these basic numbers of a 208 batting average and 29 home runs, or a guy, throw his name out for a fifth time today, Gavin Lux, who's like 290 something, but he's only got 4 home runs, but he gets on base and he gets, he can, move guys around, or he's a table setter. Who would you rather have on your ball club? Because I think gone are the days, or at least they're far few in between, where you're going to get a 290, 300 hitter who also hits you 35, 40 dingers in a season. A few might still be able to do that, but I don't think that's going to be the norm anymore. Oh, did we lose Justice? I think we lost Justice. Justice, did we lose you? Oh, boy. All right, Justice, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you. So, all right, we only got about 6 minutes to the top, but yeah, I mean, what would you rather see the Brewers at? Would you rather have them add a bat like that, or maybe a guy that's is consistently getting on base, that sort of thing? What would you let us know? 715-830-1912, and keep coming with these picks. We got a couple more picks for the fantasy home run or fantasy home run derby pick. If you could pick one, got a couple Barry Bonds, did get a couple Babe Ruths on there, but the majority right now is going with the Mr. Swing himself, Ken Griffey Jr. That's the majority on the texting line right now. So, but if you got any more picks, send those babies on over. Is your audio working now, JC?
Apparently, Kyle Schwarber didn't want me to give my answer. So he came and cut my internet line or something there. But I would say the Brewers already had a Rob Deere. Rob Deere was ahead of the trend. I mean, when majority of your hits are basically home runs, that I remember Rob Deere was always that outlier. Now his numbers don't even. You would take his number at this point, like 252. Yeah. It's amazing how much the game has changed.
And do you think, I mean, we're getting kind of off the beaten path here, but Who would get a bigger contract? Kyle Schwarber with those type of numbers, or maybe somebody who's 280 but maybe has like 10 home runs?
That's a good question because I think the home run talks so much because that's what people look at, and it's not that hasn't changed in baseball. You know, I mean, the home run is always talked, but yeah, it's hard. You're hard pressed that people are gonna, a GM's probably gonna want somebody who hits home runs because that's what people are gonna talk about.
Mhm.
Maybe your owner might want more home runs. I guess would be more the way because a Kyle Schwarber with 29 home runs is much more something you're more talking about than let's say Christian Yelich with 8 home runs but hitting 250.
With all the analytics in Major League Baseball now, how long until batting average is no longer worth any salt now that the league minimum batting average is close to an all-time worst? Well, I think it was about a month ago, is like at some point, I think like on all the scoreboards, they're going to have all those statistics up there, right? Like exit velocity, and I'm sure some do already, but they're going to have all those different numbers up there because that's what baseball's going towards.
Right. I just don't think you can discount average because as much as home runs are fun, I think people still don't want to just see home run after home run after home run.
Mhm.
I think there's still something to seeing somebody leg out a triple. There's something to a game-winning double into the gap. So I think there's a lot more. I think because the triple is still, in my mind, the most exciting play in baseball. I think I would still love to see a little more of that. And I think, they got that proposition with the triangle at the top of the second base.
The pie slice. I was actually going to ask you
Pie
about
slice,
that.
thank you.
The pie slice rule. What are your thoughts on the pie slice rule?
I'd be okay with it. It's something that's not that big of a tweak. You throw those lines on there. It's not like it's going to take them that long to throw that triangle. You do the batter's box.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a lot more complicated than just throwing couple lines there at the top. So I think it'd be neat to see how it plays out. And again, I'm in for anything that brings offense back to a point where it's not just home runs. So we'll see what they can do with it. I know they're going to keep trying. Rob Manfred wants the game to be quicker, a little more action. So I think he's going to keep trying to find something that I don't know if there's a quick answer, but I think that could help.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got a couple minutes left. 69 more games left to go. Brewers are at 50 wins, Justice. If you had to make a pick of how many more wins the Brewers will have, what do you think it'll be? Out of the last 69, how many more wins? Do they get up to 90, or is that too much?
I think that was kind of the number I was looking at. If they can get to 90, they should have a shot. I think it's going to be them and the Cardinals back and forth now. Because unless somebody else in the division pulls off amazing win streak, which we've seen a few this year, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. But yeah, I think it's the Brewers, Cardinals battling. If the Brewers can get to around 90 wins, get to 90 or over, they should be in.
Mm-hmm. What about? Oh, I saw this is an interesting question. Really quick for 1 minute. So we know Juan Soto turned down that huge monster deal, apparently, right?
Yeah.
Would you trade Josh Hader for a rental of Soto for this year?
Do you think he wants to play in Milwaukee though?
But it'd just be a rental for the rest of this year.
Yeah. I don't know. That's giving up a cornerstone guy like Hader for a rental. I don't know if that makes it. I don't think that's the spark like a CC, but you never know. I guess he's a great player. So
he is a great player.
It would have to be the right deal.
Yeah.
It would have to be the right one.
I think I'd want somebody for a couple years, at least years. So, all right, JC, appreciate the time this morning, buddy. It was good catching up with you, and you're going to take a little R&R next week. So you enjoy your time off before it gets busy with football season right around the corner.
Will do. And if anybody really wants to see me probably embarrass myself, Thursday night, Express game, throwing out the first pitch.
You are throwing out the first pitch?
Yes.
Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you what, the following week, the 28th, first of all, Thursday's Thirsty Thursdays. So,
boy. I'm going to get, if I can't spike it.
So that's where are we at here? That's the 21st. So on the 28th is actually Sports Talk night too. So,
all right. People get a week break between us.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. Best of luck. We'll watch out for that video. I'll make sure somebody's recording it.
I'm rearing, getting the arm ready to go.
Nice. Oh, well, be careful. Okay. You don't want to hurt yourself before vacation. So,
right.
Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. So, all right, dude. Appreciate talking to you, buddy. And you enjoy a little R&R coming up here. Okay, bud?
Thank you.
You got it. There you go. There's the shot clock. We got one more hour left. Let's talk a little football. Let's talk a little bit about the most dull times of the year when it comes to that sports calendar. We'll explain a little bit. Coming up in just a couple minutes.
WAYY Eau Claire. W286CK Eau Claire. Sports Talk. 105.1, 790 AM. Sports Talk 105.1 with the very latest local news.
Well, an update from Trumbull County shows that a case closed. A missing person from Ettrick was found safe, and no foul play is suspected in the case of Derek Schwartz, who was reported missing in early June. So officials now say that they do want to thank the public. Police agencies did find him alive and well. Again, that case closed in Trumbull County. Moving into other headlines that stretch across the state, it seems open up and say,
also available online where you can stream it at sportstalk1051.com. You can get the link to the video stream up there too. Otherwise, you got your Google and Alexa home devices or the Sports Talk app. What month in the calendar year is the worst, most boring, most dull in terms of sports? You got this all-star break right now. The British, or the Open, excuse me, just finishing up here. A lot of people look at July as one of the most dull or maybe the worst month of sports in the calendar year. Do you agree, or would you put a different month into that conversation? Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. Is July, especially maybe this week, the worst or most dull month in the world of sports? I was just kind of curious, so I Googled, see if, because everybody's written a blog about something in this life, right? And of course, there's plenty of lists and rankings about the worst or the best months of sports, and some people even putting August as one of the worst ones up there. You got NFL preseason just beginning, no NBA, no NHL, but you do have Major League Baseball going on, and got to push maybe to September, October for the postseason and that. But I don't know. I wouldn't put August as the second worst. February says on some of them, but I mean, February is it's already the shortest month. You've got the Super Bowl halfway through the month already. You got the NBA going on, so I'm good with February. I think February gets a little bit. What do I want to say? Too much flack, but there's a lot going on already. You got NHL stuff going on too, so but yeah, I'd say July. I love July, but no, I think my pick would probably be July. All right, let's do some studs and duds for the weekend, for the week. My first stud, we'll go with okay, I suppose, yeah, I'm gonna save this stud for my next one here. But our first stud is going to be Cameron Smith, winning the Open, the mullet wearing Aussie with I'm assuming trying to grow a little bit of a stash right there, winning the Open. A fantastic final round for him to catch up and pass Rory McIlroy. It sure looked like it was going to be Rory McIlroy heading into the final round there, but Cameron Smith getting it done gets another recognition for stud of the week. The next stud, we're going to a man who's named Trey Meyer. And if you haven't seen it, you might, well, then you don't have Facebook or Twitter, so you've probably never seen it anywhere. But Trey Meyer, he is a intern for the Kenosha Kingfish, interning as Elvis the Kingfish. Okay? Baseball. He got trucked by A.J. Dillon this past week, and it's a video that has gone viral. If you haven't seen it, you need to go Google it. The Kenosha Kingfish, Northwoods League. A.J. Dillon, they were doing a little Oklahoma drill, and A.J. Dillon laid him out. If ESPN still did the jacked up segment, that would be on the jacked up segment. I mean, the head comes flying off of Elvis. It looked painful. It looked painful. And honestly, I don't know if A.J. Dillon was even trying that hard. It's just A.J. Dillon is a huge man. He is a big, big man. And I feel sorry for Trey Meyer. Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic, actually just spoke to him, and he's got a piece up. I haven't read it yet, but Trey Meyer, he's just 5'9" and 150, and he runs cross country at UW Milwaukee, and he took on A.J. Dillon. I feel sorry for the guy, but you know what? You took it. You took the hit. You get a stud, man. That's a stud right there. Holy moly. But if you haven't seen it, go Google it, okay? Go look it up. It's quite the video over there. those are my two studs. My dad is Josh Hader and the Brewers right now. That was just ugly Friday night, going with giving up the 6, including the walk-off grand salami. I would have liked to have seen the Brewers go into the All-Star break here with a little confidence, maybe just ending the, quote-unquote first half, even though it's not exactly a 50-50, but it would just been nice to have them go in on a positive note. But looking at the bigger picture here, half game up, I feel like the Brewers are still going to make some moves. Feel like they're going to try to improve their roster by the trade deadline on August 2nd. Feel like that's going to happen. So staying positive, keeping the focus on that. Got 69 more games to go here for the Brew Crew. Can they win 40 of their 69 to get to 90? Kind of going back to what Surveyor asked. Was it last week already? Can they win 40 of their final 69 to get to 90? I think I kind of going at that, I don't know, maybe 87, 88 mark for me. I'm just kind of looking ahead to their schedule here. Colorado and Minnesota right away after the All-Star break. Then they're on the road against Boston. Then they got Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. And then August 9th starts this stretch where they've got 2 games against Tampa, a series against St. Louis, 4 games against the Dodgers. You got the Cubbies mixed in there. And then another series against the Dodgers. That 9th through the 24th is going to be pretty darn interesting for the Brewers in terms of their upcoming schedule. And then you look at September, and it's like you got a couple of series against New York teams there in the middle of September. 16th through the 18th, you're at home against the Yanks, but you get to stay home and face the Mets. And then the end of September, you've got 2 games against the Cardinals, and then who knows, 4 games against Miami. But don't sleep on, I guess, Miami right now. I mean, we're in the All-Star break right now, and this is kind of where things stand across Major League Baseball with the standings here. I mean, AL East still kind of safe, Yankees, right? Yankees leading their division, but still got all those teams ending the Baltimore Orioles in a hunt for a playoff spot, for a wild card spot. Tampa Bay's in right now, 51-41, 10 games over 500. Toronto, Boston. Boston's kind of fallen down here. They're 3-7 in their last 10 right now. And then Baltimore. And then the AL Central, Minnesota holding a 2-game lead over Cleveland, 3-game lead over the White Sox. Minnesota going 3-7 in their last 10 as well. Then you've got the Seattle Mariners, who might be the hottest team in baseball right now, probably are. 14 wins in a row right now for the Seattle Mariners, 51-42. Still 9 games back in Houston within their division. The NL East getting a little interesting here. Mets still up, but you got Atlanta. That's just 2.5 back from them. Philadelphia, 6 games over 500. You got Miami, 43-48. Then you've got Milwaukee holding on to that slightest of leads, but they're 3-7 in their last 10 too. And then the Dodgers 9-1 in their last 10 games, leading their division. 60-30 is their record. 52-42 is the Padres, who are 10 games back. And the Giants, because of that series win, 7-3 in their last 10, they have now moved to 48-43. If you're kind of looking at playoff chases, and you've got in the AL, Yankees, Houston, Minnesota, the division leaders, but the wild card setting up to be kind of a fun race here. Tampa Bay, Seattle is in it with Toronto, and then you've got Boston, 2 games back, Cleveland, 2.5 back, Baltimore, 3.5 back, White Sox, 3.5 back, Dodgers, Mets, Milwaukee leading their divisions, but this is where it's kind of important for the Brewers, since it might take to win the division to get in the postseason, because you've got Atlanta, Padres, and Philly right now as the wild card teams, with St. Louis just a little bit on the outside, like the slimmest of margins. We're talking win percentage, and that's because, well, the Cardinals got rained out here. But, I mean, 50-44 with a 532 win percentage. Philadelphia's 49-43, 533 win percentage. But you got San Francisco, that's just a half game back. Miami, 5.5 back. Colorado, 6.5 back. You got the Brewers in Colorado coming up this weekend. Colorado, they want to, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They maybe want to make a push here to try to get up there into a little playoff conversation. But I feel like Brewers will make a move by August 2nd. And I feel like that, man, I know there's the reports out there that if they're all on the up and up from Bob Nightingale from USA Today, and I'm sure he's heard it from people. I mean, dude's covered baseball for a long time. But I know sometimes we kind of get into the whole, well, is it agents? Is it teams? Throwing that out there to hopefully drive up the conversation or get talks to go, because we know the Brewers have been so standstill for the longest time in their stance of like, we're not trading Josh Hader, not moving on from him. Is this a way to put public pressure, maybe try to get the conversation flowing a little bit? I don't know. But if it is on the up and up, are you good with trading Hader? And I think at some point you got to look at this team, be like, all right, we know it's talented. We know we've got players on here. We got a good team, but for some reason it's just not clicking. It's just not working. So maybe we need to be aggressive. Maybe we need to take a little bit of a gamble. Maybe we need to move on from a couple of our regulars and bring in some new blood, bring in some fresh blood, or just change something up here a little bit. And maybe that's what can push this thing and really spark this thing to go. Because I think we would all agree, Brewers have starters that you're comfortable with going into the postseason, especially with Burns. And then you got Woodruff. And if Freddie comes back like they're talking about, I think we feel comfortable, or we feel pretty good about the starters. But when it talks about the consistency within the offense, you're maybe a little sketchy. So would you be willing to move on from a guy like Josh Hader to maybe get a couple of pieces that you can put in that starting lineup for the offensive side of things, or maybe a starting bat and then a bullpen help? I, for the longest time, have been on the no, don't trade Josh Hader sort of thing, but I got to tell you, I think I'm a little bit more open to it now if it leads to a couple of players that can help you out right now. Right now. I think if you're David Stearns and you're the Brewers, you're using this break to look at it and be like, okay, it's just something isn't clicking. So for whatever reason, it's just not working. Maybe we need to be a little aggressive or take a gamble, and maybe we need to make a move and kind of change up a couple things here. Maybe. But it would have to take a lot. Even with his prior performances, or his last couple of performances with Josh Hader, I think it would still have to take a lot for the Brewers to move on from him. We'll see. It should be a very interesting final or the next couple of weeks here as we head into that August 2nd trade deadline. Should be interesting. A lot of rumblings and rumors and reports and all that's going to be going down here. And maybe about 5% of them will come to be true. All right, let's take a quick break. So a couple questions to you. The one wide receiver that you would add to your team right now, who do you think is the best wide receiver in the game? Is it still Devontae? Would you go with one of the youngsters like a Justin Jefferson? Justin Jefferson thinks he's going to be the best after this upcoming season. He's giving it to Devontae right now, but he thinks he's going to be the best after this season. So if you had to pick who you, a lot of youngsters out there too. A lot of young wide receivers out there. But if you had to add one, who would it be? And then the worst month for sports, or the most boring, or the most dull. What do you got? Hit us up with some text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, okay? 715-830-1912. Also on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes with your picks.
Got a take on today's topics but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line and let your fingers do the talking.
Customer service. Those are the two words that my grandma kept coming back to when she was telling me about her experience with Carpet City Flooring Center. The carpet looks amazing in her living room, but it was working with the entire team from Carpet City Flooring Center that she still can't stop talking about. The process was simple thanks to the entire team there. They drove out to my grandma's house, did the measuring, gave her a quote, and they took a look at some samples. Then came the install. Not only did they do a fantastic job of installing the carpet, but the one thing that stood out to grandma, they vacuumed after they completed the job. She kept going on about how the last time she got new carpet replaced from another place, how they didn't even clean up. Customer service. You can expect to find amazing customer service at Carpet City Flooring Center because that's who they are. They treat people the right way. So if you're looking at getting a new floor in your home, take it from grandma, because like my grandma always told me growing up, because grandma said so. And we never, ever argue with what grandma says. Check out Carpet City Flooring Center today, located at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire.
With a wholesale formula seminar, discover how to start your own Amazon business.
Hey everyone, Ryan and Karen Pottinger here.
Because of the wholesale formula, last year we ran our business while we traveled to and lived in 4 different countries.
Hi, Ian Bauer. My first year averaged $45,000 a month in sales. Now I'm at $90,000 a month and hardly working.
Hi, I'm Amy Sherlock. I attended the Wholesale Formula seminar, and I'm now doing $175,000 in sales per month.
Hey, Emric Manello. 2 years after attending the Wholesale Formula seminar, I was able to sell my Amazon business for over $400,000.
Whether you have a business and want to sell more on Amazon, retired, or just need extra money, America's Amazon expert Dylan Frost will show you how. Only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. That's right. Discover the easy way to make money on Amazon with Dylan Frost's The Wholesale Formula 2-hour seminar, Tuesday, August 2nd at 2 p.m. for the greater Eau Claire area. Register at thewholesaleformula.com.
This update sponsored by UW Credit Union. For every stage of life, UW Credit Union is here for every you. Shop Pick and Save for your tailgate. Now through July 26th, earn a free Brewers ticket for every $50 spent with your Fresh Perch card at Pick and Save. Visit pickandsave.com/brewers for full details. Join UW Credit Union at uwcu.org.
Thinking about buying or building a home this year? Hi, I'm Ben from Merchants Bank. When you work with us, you have the support of the whole Merchants team. We share your home dreams and we'll do everything we can to see you reach your goal of a new home. And that starts by making things easy, like being able to apply for your mortgage when it fits your schedule. Just phone call or email away to answer your questions. Start now at merchantsbank.com and let's achieve your goals together. Equal housing lender, subject to approval.
The gas pump? Well, it's scary, but not with Hy-Vee's Fuel Saver Pro. Team at Hy-Vee has added over 1,200 items to their Fuel Saver program. By shopping at Hy-Vee and looking for items that have a Fuel Saver sign, or by taking advantage of weekly deals where you can earn fuel savings for spending a certain amount, you can see the price at the pump fall dramatically. At Hy-Vee, they've spent as little as 87 cents per gallon of gas by taking advantage of this great deal. Now the question is, how low can you go with the help from Hy-Vee?
I'm Rocky Moselle with StarRegistry.com. Since we were children, we've been told to reach for the stars. It was great advice. Now it's a great gift. Name a star after someone. For $54 and a call to 800-233-33 or visit StarRegistry.com, we will name a star after someone very special to you and send an incredible personalized gift. The new star name will be recorded in the U.S. Copyright Office. Call the Star Registry, 800-282-3333 or visit StarRegistry.com for the hottest gift.
Because you tuned in, you've heard captivating programming and my award-winning voice. Aren't you the lucky one?
Dude, shut up.
The Dan Kasper Show is on air right now.
Wednesday, July 20th. Get the car show ASAP used auto parts. So head on over there. Check out all the amazing cars that will be on display. And then you check out, if you haven't yet been to to ASAP Used Auto Parts location. You can check that out over there too. 1330 Menominee Street in Eau Claire. And if you're looking maybe to get an oil change, some tires, batteries, or maybe saving some money on some auto parts, ASAP Used Auto Parts, that's your go-to location here in the Chippewa Valley. But put it on the calendar, July 20th, got the car show coming up here, just a couple days away this Wednesday. So we'll see you there. But when you're looking about, maybe making some last-minute summer road trips here, I hate to say it, but, August, I think when August rolls around, people start to kind of feel here a little bit. But, if you're looking for maybe making some last road trips, but you got to get your vehicle ready, ASAP Used Auto Parts, your one stop. You got the oil change, you got the new tires under the battery, and of course, Auto Parts helping you save some money too. ASAP Used Auto Parts, baby. Love that place. Love that place over there. We've got a couple texts. So the worst month of sports, majority going with July. Majority is going with July. Surveyor, worst sports month is July. Best sports month is either October or March. Got another one, July, definitely the worst sports month. Talking about the wide receiver, going with Jamar Chase there. I think July is the worst. I hate to use the word worst, but I mean, let's call it for what it is. You got baseball going on, but now you got the All-Star break coming here, so you just kind of it's a lull. Okay, I know training camps around the corner for football. We got some teams with rookies reporting today, but let's call it what it is. It's boring. It's dull. I mean, no offense to baseball and that, but it's just July's number one in my opinion. The best one, I think, is October. I think it's October because, I mean, you're full-fledged into the football season. You're a month into the football season. You've got baseball playoffs, World Series going on. You've got, NBA getting ramped up, getting started, NHL. College football is going on. College hoops is starting to get close to getting going in that. I like October. I think October is the best month when you kind of factor in all the sports. You could kind of say trickle in maybe a little bit to November, depending on how the schedules play out. But if I'm looking at a full month, I'm looking at October for me. For me, it's October. I think that's the number one month. You got like all the big ones going or getting ready to go. October is like primo number one for the sports month, in my opinion, at least. Surveyor's got March in there. I'm assuming Surveyor because opening day and March Madness. You got NBA going on. You got NHL going on. Assuming that's why you're picking March. But for me, I've got to have a little football action in there. So that's why I look at fall. Fall is my favorite time of the year. Love summer. It's number two, but fall's number one. Gotta be. Okay, so the other question I threw out there, if you had one receiver that you wanted to pick to add to your team right now for this year. So you got like a fantasy team, okay? But let's say you're the general manager of a pro team, but you could add one receiver. You could take a receiver from any team and pluck them on yours. Who would that receiver be? If you look at the numbers from last year, Cooper Kupp, almost 2,000 yards receiving, 1947, 16 tuds. Devontae, 1553, 11 tuds. Tyreek Hill's on there. Justin Jefferson was fourth in. Let's go. Let's organize this by yards here just to make it. Come on, load up for me. Here we go. So Justin Jefferson was second in receiving yards at 1616. Jamar Chase, fourth, 1455. We have Deebo Samuel on there. Tyreek, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson. You want to go a little bit further down that maybe they're primed for a bigger year this year. Maybe a CeeDee Lamb from the Cowboys. Maybe a Michael Pittman with the Colts. Now that, you got Matt Ryan over there. Jalen Waddle with the Dolphins. But, now Tyreek Hill's over there. Does that take away from some of his targets? And I'm asking this because Justin Jefferson, Vikings star wide receiver, said the other day that he believes that he will be, when it's all said and done after this year, the best wide receiver in the game of football. He said that he's giving it to Devontae right now. But, quote, I'll say after this year, I'll be the best receiver in the NFL. I definitely have to give it to Devontae Adams as of now, him being so crazy and dynamic on the field. His route running is crazy, so I definitely have to give it to him right now. But I'm pretty sure after this year, it's going to be me. So who would you pick? I mean, I can't argue too much with Justin Jefferson. I can't argue. I mean, just we've seen him. We're going to be seeing him for a long time. If you're a Packers fan, we're going to see him in this division for a long time. Thankfully, we've got a secondary that's got like a Jair Alexander and a youngster in Eric Stokes, and hopefully Russell Douglas can pick up where he left off last year, right? But I mean, Justin Jefferson's going to be a pain in the side for the Packers for a long time. It sure seems like, unless something happens in the next year, few years, or whatever. But I mean, you look at what he's done since he's gotten to the NFL, and it's hard to argue against the guy. And I know that's the player that was rumored that the Packers were hoping to target, or Aaron Rodgers wanted in the draft when they got Jordan Love and that. But that's in the past. But rookie year, 1,400 yards, 88 receptions, 16 games. Last year, 17 games, 108 receptions, over 1,600 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. Hard to argue with him. Jamar Chase, you could put him on there. We know the connection he has with Joe Burrow. You look at across the league, and this league has some young studs at this wide receiver position. Some young talent. I mean, Cooper Kupp's 29. You got Devontae Adams, who's also 29. But they're kind of like, those are the old guys, right? They're the old guys. Stephon Diggs is 28. But Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel's only 26. I feel like Tyler Lockett kind of is like people kind of forget about him a little bit. Dude put up over 1,000 yards last year. He's 29 though too. He's an old guy, right? DK Metcalf. These youngsters. I mean, there's a crop of young wide receivers in this NFL that are like, it's impressive. It really is impressive. We could go on throughout this whole list. I mean, DK Metcalf's not even on the first page of receiving yards from last year. He had 967 last year, but he had 12 touchdowns. St. Brown from the Lions had a rookie year, really came in on towards the end of the season. But there's a lot of, if we had to narrow it down to all right, which wide receiver still on a rookie contract would you put on your ball club? Make it a little bit more interesting. Which rookie or which receiver still on a rookie contract? So that does mean Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Maybe it's a rookie for this year's class. I guess technically DK Metcalf is still on there too until he signs that new deal. I guess you could probably put Deebo Samuel on there too because he's still on that first deal. But what receiver that's still getting paid, on their first deal would you put? I'm down to I think it's Justin Jefferson. If I had to pick one, I think it's Justin Jefferson. Just the consistency factor. 2 years in, I think the guy's dynamic. I think he's an explosive athlete. And he is going to be a huge pain in the butt Packers for the next few years. But unlike when Minnesota, drafted Randy Moss and then Ron Wolf, trying to use a lot of picks to bring in some corners that included Mike McKenzie and such. Try to, slow him down. I feel better about Green Bay's secondary now. with Jair going to be around for a few years. Eric Stokes had a good rookie season last year. Hopefully Rasul Douglas can continue where he left off. So I feel a little bit better about that, but yeah, I think I'd go with Jefferson if I had to pick a receiver. Him or Chase. Him or Chase. Those would be my top two. If I had to pick a receiver that was still in a rookie deal or their first contract, if you will. But boy, there's some really, really good talent. And I guess in terms of her fantasy football too, I mean, how early is too early to draft a wideout? I mean, when you're looking at the leaders from last year in receiving, Cooper Kupp, Devontae, Justin, Jamar Chase. You got Deebo Samuel, who did have over 1,400 yards receiving. A lot of people kind of, talk about his rushing yards. But, I mean, the guy had over 1,400 yards receiving last year. And maybe he's poised to have a little bit more because he doesn't want to run the football. He doesn't want to be a running back. He wants to kind of help preserve his body a little bit more. So maybe more targets are in play for him from the receiving end. A lot of these, if we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, of the top five receivers, he had the least amount of receptions with that 1,400 yards, just for comparison's sake. So Cooper Kupp had 145 receptions. Cooper Kupp had a ridiculous amount of receptions last year, 145 for 1947. Deebo Samuel, 77 for 1,405. Deebo Samuel had 121 targets. Cooper Kupp, 192. So, like half the receptions. But he's also involved in the running game. But if he's not going to be as heavily involved in the running game, is more opportunities for receptions there. But back to like the fantasy football thing, when's too early to draft a wide receiver, knowing that the league's got some pretty darn good talent. And I know a lot depends on the structure of the league, depending on, your certain fantasy football leagues and that, but a lot will depend on that. Totally get it. Totally understand it. And who would be the first pick in fantasy football for a wide receiver? Who's your first pick in fantasy football for a wide receiver? You're going to go with Cooper Kupp, knowing that, him and Matthew Stafford, they've got that connection where you're like, all right, everything's on film. Going to drop off a little bit because it's really hard to replicate almost 2,000 yards receiving. Going to come down a little bit. And then you got Allen Robinson over there for the Rams too, remember. Devontae Adams, a lot of people, mostly Packers fans, just kind of assume his production is going to drop down because he's not with Aaron Rodgers. He's with Derek Carr. Raiders also have Darren Waller. They got Hunter Renfrow over there too. Will those numbers come down a little bit? But who would you get your number one? I know, you got all the magazines out there that rank them and put them all out there, but you personally, who would you pick number one for a fantasy football league? You personally. Don't give me the Pro Football Focus stuff or I know Matthew Berry's leaving ESPN now, but all the analysts. I want you to be the analyst here. I want you to make the pick. Who would you pick number one? If you were in fantasy football, if you were in our Pro Football Happy Hour fantasy football league, you're on the clock and you're targeting a wideout, who are you picking? Still going Cooper? Going to go Devontae? Going to go Chase heading into second year? Deebo? Justin Jefferson? Tyreek Hill? Would you trust Tyreek Hill with Tua? Because you got to factor that in when you come to receivers, right? Who's their quarterback? Who's throwing them the football? Because you got to factor that in. CD Lamb, maybe get more targets with no Amari Cooper over there. Dallas, Dak Prescott. And then the other part in this whole thing, too, is remember, Michael Thomas should be coming back here. And Michael Thomas with the Saints. And he was putting up some monster numbers. Missed last year. Got hurt in 2020. But remember in 2019, over 1,700 receiving yards. He's 29 too. I'll be curious to see what he has this year. One, can he stay healthy? And when he's on the field, I mean, when he came in 16, 17, 18, 19, he was just, dude was fantastic. But that's going to be a receiver that I'll be curious to see what he's able to do on the field this year. And with, Jameis Winston, we know he's got the arm, he likes to throw it, but Saints are a little bit of an unknown this year, I feel like, too. But you've got your spots picked. You got your running back, you've got your quarterback. Who is your number one if you're coming up with your draft board? I don't care about how many points there are for rewarded for receivers. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking who's number one on your draft board when it comes to a wide receiver. I don't really care about the position. Just give me the number one wide receiver on your draft board for fantasy football this year. All right. We'll take a break, see if we got any texts or anything like that. Just keep it simple. All right. Keep it simple. Last call for any picks for your, speaking of fantasy home run derby participant. You had one player to pick. Who would it be? Griff, you still leading the clubhouse? Anybody else want to chime in?
You're listening
Do so.
to the Dan Kasper Show.
think what we'll do maybe in this week we'll send out the first wave of emails for our fantasy football league. So make sure that you're paying attention to your emails, and then once you get that email, sign up right away because we're gonna kind of go in order. Everybody who signed up, we're gonna get you in a league, but we might have to have a couple of leagues going because we have quite a few signups here. So we'll go through the first wave, then make sure everybody signs up, and then just kind of it'll be my way of splitting teams up or players up into their respective leagues. So make sure you're paying attention to your inboxes for your email this week. So we'll kind of get that going, and then we'll try to figure out a draft date and all that good stuff. Surveyor's going with Cup, Chase, and then Devontae Adams. All right, let's cover the bases here this morning. Was the MLB draft last night for beginning of the Major League Baseball draft. Brewers selecting Eric Brown Jr., shortstop from Coastal Carolina. He's got an unusual approach to the plate, as the scouts from MLB's Pipeline kind of called it here. Regarded by scouts for what MLB Pipeline scouting report referred to as an unusual setup at the plate, with hands that remind some of one-time Brewer Julio Franco. And actually, when Eric Brown Jr. was talking a little bit yesterday, one of his models was Christian Yelich. I like to sink into my legs, and he's a guy who sinks into his legs a lot. Coming up in my sophomore and junior year of high school, I was like, if he can sink into his legs and catch up to a 95-mile-an-hour pitch, then I can do it in high school. I continued to watch him throughout my entire high school career. And then as I got older and started getting deeper into baseball, I watched a bunch of guys, but it all started with Christian Yelich. That's Eric Brown Jr. Then their second pick went with a 6'7" pitcher, Mizorowski. He's 6'7", went 10-0 with a 2.72 ERA. And had a 180 opponent's average and 16.1 strikeouts per 9 innings in 15 starts this season. Yeah, he's 6'7", and he has a fastball that touched at 100 miles per hour. Whew, Nelly. The the first overall pick. How about this? So Todd Holliday, remember him? Remember Todd Holliday? Son Jackson was the number 1 overall pick. Actually, Andrew Jones's kid was the second overall pick too. But looking at some of these numbers for Jackson Holliday, he's an 18-year-old, drafted out of high school. He hit 685 with 17 home runs and a 2.141 OPS. Yeah, 2.141 OPS. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Doesn't mean it'll transition into the pro game, but that's whoo. And then Drew Jones selected at number 2. So cool those are, Matt Holliday, Andrew Jones, guys we saw play at the big leagues. For some, depending on your age group, those were guys when I was like in high school and college, even maybe a little bit in middle school there. So now their kids are getting drafted to the show. But that was kind of cool to see. That was kind of cool to see, though. But when it comes to draft, I know, Major League Baseball switched it to a Sunday night, hopefully maybe getting a little bit more attention to it. I was reading over the weekend. Major League Baseball draft is it's kind of complicating. And a lot of these youngsters, we don't know a whole lot about. A lot of these kids, we don't know a whole lot about. Maybe we, if you're a diehard baseball fan and you're kind of keeping tabs to, some of the top prospects at the high school level or even the college level, or once in a while we'll hear about a guy if they're on the Sports Illustrated cover, like a Bryce Harper or something. Once in a while though, we don't know a whole lot about these players unless you're just diehard into high school and baseball. Or college baseball, and you really get into it all year long, and you pay attention to that. The other part is like it does get confusing. You got balance picks, draft balance picks. You've got a bunch of other stuff, and sometimes we don't see these players maybe for few years down the line. Or maybe we get excited for the draft if we know somebody like, Kyle Cody is going to get drafted. A few years ago, we were all watching that, right? Chippewa Falls. But the MLB, nothing will ever compete with the NFL draft. And for any league, and I'm not saying Major League Baseball is trying to do this or the NBA is trying to do this, but I'm sure they would love to be like the NFL draft where they can, get the exposure that they get and the enthusiasm and the attention. Nothing will ever catch up or beat the NFL draft. I mean, the NFL draft, say what you want about the NFL. You may get tired of it. It seems like a lot of times it's a 12-month league. They spread it out. Drafts in April. You got combine. You got free agency. You got the offseason. I mean, for crying out loud, they've got a network and Good Morning Football that does a show every morning, yet they can find topics to talk about football. It's because it is the number one sport in terms of, tuning in. People love it. And nothing will ever catch up to the NFL draft in any of these other leagues. Baseball can't do it. NBA can't do it. Hockey can't do it. At least in the NBA draft, we know maybe a little bit more about those players because, hey, maybe we saw them in March Madness. That might be your first and only glimpse to a lot of these players. Oh, yeah, I watched them on Duke. I know about him because he played for Kentucky. A little bit about him. And maybe that'll change if they do lower the age and they bring back some more high schools. But, we kind of tend to hear some more about, the high schoolers that get drafted in the NBA, or we did. Started with Kwame Brown, Dwight Howard, some dude named LeBron James. Even Kobe was, a first-round pick, but not that popular. Kevin Garnett, started with him too. But nothing will ever touch the draft and the pimping out of the draft like what the NFL does. You can say it's annoying. You can say, my goodness, do they ever have an offseason? But we all fall into it, and I'm one of the biggest ones that falls into it. I'm raising my hand right now. I'm into it, man. I got nobody to blame but myself. I eat and breathe all that stuff. I mean, I would love to see Major League Baseball draft get more exposure, get more attention, learn a little bit more about some of these prospects. I think the downfall is like we don't know when or if any of these guys are actually going to make it to the show. Are they going to be a part of that ball club? Because the other part too is like a lot of these picks, they might be traded next year as part of, we're going to trade him for a bunch of, impact player now, but loaded up with some prospects and all that. Once in a while, we hear about a guy and we get excited about potentially making the big league club. For Brewers, it was Lewis Brinson for the longest time. That didn't work out. That actually was, looking at that trade now with Yelich, it's like, all right, yes. Keston Hero was there for a little bit, excited about his bat when he was first drafted. It's like, oh, guy can't throw, but, got a good bat. We were excited when he kind of started to get in here a little bit. It was like, hey, we need to keep him on there. And then he's been up and down since then. I just don't know how they're going to pan out. Drafts in all sports are crapshoots, though. Home Run Derby is tonight, so we asked for your top fantasy pick. Like, if you can have one fantasy home run participant, who would it be? Griffey Jr. It's easy to tell. Griffey Jr. was by far the biggest vote getter on Texan Facebook and Twitter. Did have some Babe Ruth. Hank Aaron's on there too. Say he was probably number 2. A couple Barry Bonds, but it was clear it was Ken Griffey Jr. The matchup for tonight for the Home Run Derby, the 1-seeded Kyle Schwarber going up against the 8-seeded Albert Pujols. We've got Pete Alonso looking to win 3 in a row. 2020, remember, COVID year, they didn't have it. Pete Alonso, 2-seed going up against Ronald Acuna Jr. You got Corey Seager, the 3-seed, going up against Julio Rodriguez. And then Juan Soto from the Nationals going up against Jose Ramirez. I am going to go with You know what? Just because it's his swing, I think Kyle Schwarber is going to get it done. I'm going to go Kyle Schwarber. I'm going to pick him. I mean, he's all or nothing kind of guy anyway, so I'm going to go Kyle Schwarber. I'm going to go with the lame pick, the number 1 seed for the home run derby tonight. If I had to pick somebody else, I might go with Corey Seager. Corey Seager might be my next one. Those are my top 2. So, but do you still pay attention to the home run derby? Do you still watch it? Like, I watched it a lot when I was a kid. I mean, I remember when they would have the reruns on during the day. And I know they used to do the home run derby during the day too, but I remember they would always like have the reruns on ESPN. Summer vacation, you know, you're not doing anything at the house, or you're taking a break from playing some pickup hoops in the backyard. You come in and like, oh, they're replaying the 1995 home run derby, or they're replaying this one. Griffey's up there with the backwards cap, and you're paying attention to that McGuire, so whatever. But I loved watching the home run derby as a kid. Loved it. It's okay now. I know they've adjusted it. They've changed some things up and to try to keep it more interesting. Like everything else they do in all these other sports is all-star festivities, like the dunk contest. They've tried tinkering with it and changing it up. Pro Bowl, they're trying to do stuff, and every league, I mean, NHL has done it with their all-star festivities. Every league has done something to alter their all-star festivities to keep people engaged or to get them more interested in it. But I used to love the home run derby as a kid. I'll pay attention to it a little bit tonight, but remember, it used to just go so long in the night too, just long. But it's and I think a lot of these too, we have to remember as adults, they're for the kids. In my opinion, I think that's what it should be for. It's for the kids. It's for those youngsters. I grew up my age. It was like we mentioned, Griffey Jr., McGuire. We paid attention to that. I paid attention to the dunk contest as a kid. I still remember watching the Vince Carter one. Pro Bowl, loved it as a kid watching it. As an adult, I don't care about that stuff anymore. And I think that's something that we kind of have to realize as adults too, is like, yeah, it might be boring for us, but for those kiddos, for those youngsters, for those boys and girls, they eat that up. And that's who it should be for. Because put yourself in the shoes. As a kid, you were probably all into that stuff. I was. 3-point contest, dunk contest, home run derby, Pro Bowl. Yep. As a kid, I watched them all, and I loved it. As an adult, nah. Doesn't trip my trigger anymore. All right, that's going to do it for us on this Monday morning. DP and a dancer up next. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday. Stay cool. I think it's supposed to get a little warm, right? Hydrate. Surveyor, you're outside. Be safe out there. Anybody else outside, be safe. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. Talk to you then.
You're listening to the Dan Patrick Show on WAYY Eau Claire, W286CK Eau Claire, Sports Talk 105.1.
You're out, you're about, but you want your Dan Patrick. Well, good news. He goes everywhere with. If you missed the show, you can podcast